Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
And I'm Charles Rogers, and I want the record to show that I'm currently drinking an iced coffee, which makes me the gayer of the two of us.
Well, I'm drinking a La Croix, so that's also.
Ooh, you're giving me some competition there.
That's up
I thought
there.
I thought that was specifically an LA thing. The obsession
no.
with La Croix.
I love LaCroix. It's amazing.
Is it La Croix or LaCroix?
Well, okay, so it's
I don't know because I'm a
pronounced. Oh, well, it's pronounced LaCroix, but people who are like, it's kind of like when you say like Target instead of Target, like you're just being fancy for no reason. So that's what I do.
Okay.
So I'm just doing that as like a being silly. So anyway, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. There's, no new Star Wars content. I'm trying to get into the High Republic, but
yeah,
I can't get time to actually go to the bookstore and get Light of the Jedi. I'm trying to find time. I want to own the physical copy of it.
Oh, you don't have like a Kindle or something? You can't read it on your iPad?
I have a lot of the sequel trilogy books on like a Kindle, or rather on my phone.
Okay.
That I used to read on public transit when I lived in Atlanta, when I would take the MARTA, because you know how the MARTA rail is. You wait forever for that thing because it's awful.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes in between each.
I read a lot of the Journey of the Force Awakens and Last Jedi stuff on MARTA, and then also in like various other forms of public transit. But now that I work from home, I'm like, I kind of want to own the physical copy of the High Republic stuff.
It looks cool. I mean, visually, like, I don't know, is it just like, that's just like the art cover stuff, or is there actual pictures in it?
It depends. The like adult novels, which I know you're not interested in at all,
not at
because they are for adults.
Right.
But they don't have any illustrations, but I don't think the young adult novels do either. They are doing a comics run, though.
Oh. Okay, well, I might have to look that up on some free comic book website so I can read it.
I'll buy the physical editions because I'm that sort of human. How is your week been? This is unusual. This podcast is unusual, by the way, because we're recording a week after we recorded the last one. Generally, there'll be about 2 weeks in between recordings if something is not currently airing.
Right.
But it's been about a week. How's Thrawn going?
Well, I'm about at the same point I was last time we recorded this. So basically, nothing has changed in the World of Thrawn book. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just not a fast reader.
What part are you at?
I think I'm like in chapter 8 still. So
they've left the academy by that point.
It's focused on the female lady. I forget her name. The bowl cut.
Oh, yeah, from Rebels.
I forget her name.
Price.
Yes.
Annahilda Price.
Yes, she is the current focus of the story. She's being a sassy woman, and I love her so much. She actually, what's funny is this book gives her so much more like background, which I mean, I know that's what books are supposed to do, is supposed to like flesh out these characters. But like in Rebels, she was just kind of a blah character to me. But then reading this, I'm like, oh, you actually kind of like start to understand her or like her, or you know what I mean? Like she has a hard life outside of the Empire. Like she's just as, trodden down as any other member of the Republic.
It's funny how like some of the people who are the most fanatically loyal or become the most fanatically loyal to these regimes are people who've been beaten down, and that's what they cling on to as a sort of way to cope with that, or a way to quote unquote fix that. So I like that. Did you notice, I don't know if you noticed this, because I didn't. I had to read his Wikipedia article. Are you at the part with the old governor of Lothal yet?
No. Well, wait. I think she's talked to him at this point. I don't know if because he gave her a job. So
okay.
I think it's him. Because there's this guy. Basically what's happening is this guy, it could be the same person you're talking about. He wanted to give her he gave her a job on Coruscant. And because that's what she wanted. And he wanted to stay on Lothal so he could take over her family's business or something. I don't know. It's very. I'm like a little like lost, but it's fine.
That's
I can
okay.
Just read it.
The governor. I didn't realize that the guy, like, I didn't make the connection in my brain that one of the side characters from Rebels is that character because he's so different in the book.
Oh, okay.
So, like,
I'll have to watch Rebels again then.
the book doesn't portray him in a particularly flattering light.
Okay. Yeah, he's kind of like a skeezy kind of guy. I mean, in a basically in a businessman kind of way, not a like an evil kind of way, I'm just doing things for money kind of way. So
it's a neat arc, to go from that to how he's portrayed a little more heroically in Rebels, but like Rebels never addresses that.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of not a great guy when he's governor of Lothal.
Right.
But I thought that was interesting that was another connection. Thrawn, the novel, the original novel, has a lot of connections to Rebels. The only real connection that Treason has to Rebels, because Alliance mentions the events of the end of season 3 a lot. Treason takes place during the 4th season of Rebels. There's a bit where Thrawn goes away for like a week and Price is left in charge. And that's when they blow up the refinery because Thrawn's not around. He's off dealing with the events of Thrawn Treason, and then he comes back. So they actually have a scene in Treason that's a word for word a scene from Rebels, just told from Thrawn's perspective.
See, this is why I don't read, because
it's a lot.
It's a lot. This is why I just watch Rebels and enjoy myself and have a good time watching a children's cartoon, and just am satisfied with Disney giving me something simple to comprehend. Not to tangent off this, but it is a children's show, quote
unquote.
Right. But for the fact that it is a children's show, our main character, Ezra, when he is kind of fighting, stormtroopers in TIE fighters, or he literally is blowing them up and murdering these people. I want to do, okay, if we ever go back and watch Rebels and we analyze it, I want to do a kill count. I want to see how many times Ezra Bridger murders people in cold blood. Yes, you could say self-defense, but I'm going to just say that since he's a teenager, let's see how many times this teenager is literally straight up murdering people who are just following orders from the Empire. Like, that's what I want.
Skywalker was 18 when he murdered thousands of people in the Death Star explosion.
But I'm saying, like, okay, with Luke, that's mass murder. That's different than, individually, like, picking someone and going, that person's shooting at me, I'm going to murder them. Like, so Ezra is like selectively killing people, whereas Luke was just like, I don't care if you're a woman, a man, or a child, I'm just going to blow them all up, right? Because they're all evil. So he's very like radical person like that.
I mean, the rebels are terrorists. That's from
true.
The Empire. There's a Twitter account actually called Death Star PR.
Oh God.
Which is the most hilarious thing.
Yes.
But it rewrites. It used to do this for certain former presidents' tweets. Mm-hmm. But now it just kind of does it in general. Okay. After certain events that happened at the beginning of 2020, it lost its access to that content. But it rewrites like these far right spin tweets as pro-Empire Star Wars tweets. And hilarious. I think that is the most hilarious thing in the world.
I love the internet.
I love it. The internet is great. The internet is just fantastic. Speaking of the internet,
yes,
and things that have been happening on it, Bradley, I believe you have been compiling some news stories that have been swirling around in the past week.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you have been noting as the major events of not the past fortnight, in this case, the past week?
Well, it hasn't been too much going on in the world of Star Wars. For just record's sake, we're only talking up until about February 5th or 6th. Okay. So just the month of February for the most part.
Right.
So the first thing I have, which actually happened recently, because this is going to come up soon, is the Golden Globes are coming on February 28th, and The Mandalorian received a Golden Globe nomination for the Best TV Drama. So
Yes, I care about the Golden Globes. I know what that is. That matters.
it just got another one, I guess. I haven't really done the research on that to see how many awards it's won, but I know it did last year. It won a bunch of them, but I can't remember specifically what they all were.
Because it
I
was
just
really
know.
good.
Right. But this one, it got best TV drama, which I was interesting. So I don't know. I didn't look up what it was competing against. So I can't go in and be like, oh, it's gonna be this, and it's definitely going to win because for all I know, it's up against like Fargo or something. I don't know,
There
but
are other TV shows that exist, he said, with a
right.
degree that has a specific focus in TV
You
writing.
you think I would
having
focus
done
on this stuff
multiple-
more?
You would think. I mean, there's so much happening right now. No,
Yeah.
that is cool that it got nominated specifically in the best, because Star Wars a lot of the time, other than A New Hope was nominated for the Best Picture Oscar, and it lost to something I don't care about and don't remember the name of. But other than that, Star Wars is nominated for and wins a lot of technical awards generally. So it wins Vis FX, it wins production design, it wins, these design awards and awards for the production itself. It doesn't generally get nominated for major accolades like the best, whatever category. So it is cool that it is going to at least be in the running to be nominated.
Okay, so I found the list. You want to know what it's running up against in just Golden Globes?
Yes, I would like to know what it's up against so I can trash these other shows. Because I'm not biased. I'm not biased at all. I'm a completely impartial gay viewer. As we know, gays are the most impartial people when it comes to TV. That's why Twitter is always so calm after a new episode of Drag Race.
Right, exactly. They always go into meltdown mode. Best TV or best television series drama Mandalorian is going up against The Crown on Netflix.
Oh, so boring British people trying to do the Queen again, but more drawn out.
Right.
All right.
Ozark on Netflix, I think, as well.
Jason Bateman really wants you to forget about Arrested Development. He really would like you to stop casting him in these funny man roles, please.
Another Netflix, Ratched, Ryan Murphy.
Oh God, Ryan Murphy. we always have a meeting before we actually start recording, and one of the things we were talking about in the meeting was my famous dislike of Ryan Murphy and basically every show that he does. Right. So I have already complained mightily in other places about Ratched his existence in general. No, thank you. What else do we have nominated?
And then the last one is Lovecraft Country.
I'm going to say something that's incredibly controversial.
Yes.
I think Lovecraft Country should actually win out of that list.
Really? Mm-hmm. Do you have a specific reason why? Or just a general reason?
Now, I haven't watched all of Lovecraft Country. I haven't watched all of most of these shows.
Okay.
Because I've been doing 80,000 things all the time, and I have less time for TV than I'd hoped. Yeah, I haven't watched... from what I've seen of it, I haven't watched a lot of these current season shows to completion. I've watched a little bit. And of them all, Lovecraft Country was the one that I found the most unique and interesting to watch.
Interesting.
So The Crown's good. The Crown I've seen before. I've seen it before, even before it was The Crown. Ratched is just the Ryan Murphy show.
Right.
Again. The Mandalorian, I love it. We're going to talk about how much I love it. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about how much I loved it and also hated it. It wasn't really that out there as far as a TV show goes. It wasn't doing anything that, I hadn't seen before. Lovecraft Country, of all of the ones, is the one that was the most interesting, the most out there, the one. Plus, I mean, there's something to be said for the reclamation of that kind of sort of cosmic horror deal when Lovecraft himself was famously, I think, problematic, maybe too light of a word.
That's a good way to put it.
Anyway, I would give the award to that one. Although by the time the Golden Globes actually air, I will need to have watched
the rest
at least one season of all of these shows. I don't know. What do you think?
So I've never watched The Crown. I've never watched Ozark. So I can't say anything about those two shows other than I've heard of them and that they're very popular. So I mean, but they've probably won a lot before, so they probably won't win. I watched like first couple episodes of Ratchet, lost interest, don't care. I watched the first episode of Lovecraft Country. I thought it was interesting. I watched the second one. It was starting to dwindle. And then the third one, I just gave up on that show because it was just too fucking weird. And I hated it.
I mean, welcome to something with the word Lovecraft in the name.
No, and you know what's funny is my friend who I was watching it with, he loves the Lovecraft mythos, right? He read the books or whatever, and he loves the thing. He hated the show.
Really?
Hated it. And so I don't know if it's just because it's a Jordan Peele project and he just doesn't like Jordan Peele stuff, or, you know, maybe it's just the way it was written or something. I just did not care at all about it. Like, it just did not catch me enough. But as of my current standing of what I've watched out of the 5, I like The Mandalorian the best. So
all I know is I think we can agree, and I think we may be in the minority of the gay community for saying this. I don't think either of us wants Ratchet to win.
Although I feel like out of those, I think Ratchet has the most LGBTQ representation.
Yeah, because for
the main
all I
character
will
is a
bag
lesbian.
on Ryan Murphy, and I will bag on Ryan Murphy's work. I do not like the majority of what he does. Like the first season of Glee, the third season of American Horror Story, and Feud Betty and Joan, which is the only time he has truly given the gays exactly what they want. Other than that, I really don't like any of his stuff. But I will say that he includes a lot of LGBT rep on his shows,
Gotcha.
Which is really cool. And like, I like seeing them successful for that reason. And I think he marries it to kind of the Ryan Murphy aesthetic, which is this vibrant and colorful and everything pops. And is this very kind of, we talked last time about pageantry and like how that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his shows have a lot of them. So maybe I'll go back and I'll give Ratchet a good hate watch.
Well, I didn't realize that our Golden Globes tangent was going to go on so long, but I have 2 more news stories, so
we
I
are
keep
TV
going.
people.
I know.
We are TV people.
I know. I should have known that. I should have known that was going to happen. So good thing I did it first, you know.
We will set this as like an introduction, because clearly both of us have some research to do before the Golden Globes. We will talk about the Golden Globes at a later time, and we will see if the opinions we have expressed change.
Right. So in other news, there was some confirmation on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. It's going to start filming in late spring of this year. So, which is interesting because that means turnaround time. We could theoretically see Obi-Wan series air next spring, which is, I mean, not fast since we've known about it for a while now, but
it is only 6 episodes.
Right. So the fact that it is not a mini series, I should say a limited series, means that they will film it fairly quickly.
It's also, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is filming here in Los Angeles where I live.
I actually heard a rumor that it's filming in Boston.
That is an incorrect. So that rumor, I remember that rumor.
Yeah. Oh, so
I believe that was incorrect. I believe there was talk about it filming in Boston, in the UK, and some people thought that it was going to be that it was going to be filming in Boston, Massachusetts. I think there was talk of maybe it filming in Atlanta,
right.
Which
I haven't heard anything about that here, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, it could happen in a few weeks, but who knows?
Yeah, use your magic producer skills. Look up real quick if they said where it's filming.
They didn't have a location on here, but if it was going to be filmed in Atlanta, I would start seeing stuff for it already on the particular job places that I get my jobs from. And I haven't seen any Disney Plus anything in Atlanta for a while now, so I don't know if they're going to do it here. They could. I mean, theoretically, they could do it at Pinewood, which is in Atlanta. Pinewood Studios, where they film all the Marvel movies. It's just giant green screens and everything. So theoretically, they could do it. Or I don't know if they're trying to film it kind of like Mandalorian with the what do they call it? The hub, or what do they call it?
I believe it's the hub.
Is it called the hub?
I believe so.
I'm sure people are screaming at us saying, "No, it's called this."
Of all people should know this.
Right.
We of the two of us, of anyone else, should know the TV device that they're using to film. Although it is transitioned over to movies, James Gunn is using it for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Uh-huh. Oh, I believe James Gunn is... No, Taika Waititi is using it for Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, that should be interesting then.
No, I thought I heard that it was in LA because I remember thinking, I'm right here.
Oh,
I'm down the street.
I'm down the street.
I will quit my job. I will quit my day job and go to work on your set as a coffee boy or whatever.
Right.
I will do it. Please hire me.
And then I also had one more news piece. This one actually affects you over in the LA area. Well, technically LA area. So Disneyland is permanently replacing the Rainforest Cafe location in downtown Disney with a Star Wars Trading Post store.
This is not news that I'd heard before recording the show.
So you're going to be...
Other two I knew, but this I had not... Because I no longer work at the physical location. I won't say exactly what I do for my day job, but I worked at a physical location with a guy who was big into the theme parks, and I got all my theme park news from him. So this I haven't heard. That just makes me like
make you
sad.
Happy? Oh.
Well, because I was on my last birthday. I've lived out here for a while now. On my last birthday, I was supposed to go to Star Wars Land. It's a milestone birthday. I'm not going to say what milestone it is, but it's a milestone birthday. It was very exciting. I was going to go to Star Wars Land. I was going to buy a lightsaber. I was going to hug Chewbacca. I was going to drag my friends through flying the Millennium Falcon about 200,000 times. Obviously, that didn't happen. So anytime there's new Star Wars news at Disneyland, I'm like, well, I'll just add it to the list of things that I'll be able to do when they're done having it as a mass vaccination site, which is what it really should be used for currently.
Right. And that's all the news I got. Here. So
I have one thing that's relevant. It's not really an official news story. It's just something I heard.
Okay. So a rumor.
But I did think it was relevant enough to us to discuss here, which is that the Bad Batch animated show would begin airing on Disney Plus sometime in spring of 2021. Now, I will preface this by saying I didn't hear this from any official Star Wars source. Right. It was just through the swirl of personalities and various podcasts and things that I follow were mentioning it.
Right.
But it looks like that may be the first of this new slew of shows to actually come out.
It would make sense. I mean, just because it's the easiest to kind of pump out.
Well, the animation, like, they're hard for different reasons. Like, if you go through, I was friends with a few animators and things. This was before I met you. So this was back when I was back in the Savannah campus.
Back in the 60s.
And I spent back in the 60s before Star Wars was a thing. Back in the ancient days.
Right.
No, I spent a lot of time because you had to take a lot of computer animated design courses. So this was a thing. And you know this, our alma mater, instead of doing like history and a math course and things like that, they had you take like intro to design, color theory, computer Photoshop class. Right. So I spent a lot of time back to back to back, and I was also really good friends with a visual effects major. So I saw firsthand, they're not easy to do. These animated shows are, especially the 3D animation. It's interesting, but from the look of the trailer, it looked like they had a lot of it together by the time they showed the trailer on the investor call.
Oh yeah, I think it was mostly done by that point. I think honestly, it probably was all done. They're just kind of either finishing touches or they're just kind of holding it because they don't have a lot of Star Wars stuff ready yet. So they kind of were just like, well, let's just hold on to this for a couple weeks and then we can just wait until a good time during the spring when nobody's doing anything and then just blow here. There's nothing on Disney Plus right now, so let's throw this on there.
They may not want to step on the High Republic. And the thing is with the High Republic, it's not a thing that's easy to market because they don't have anything easily digestible.
Yeah.
So it's books and comics. Currently, we talked about the Acolyte last time, which is a High Republic era show. But they may be spacing these things out because they kind of don't want to step on too much. And it also seems like they may want to move back and forth between different eras and not get stuck on one particular era, especially since a lot of the shows are looking to tie together in what's being pitched as a major cinematic event, which fingers crossed that we can finally give Senator John Ossoff his Loose Thrawn trilogy adaptation that he wants.
Yes, that would be.
You're a senator now, John.
Yeah, he can make that happen. He could make that happen. I don't know why. It's like, dude, you're elected now, dude. You can help us out.
You give us Thrawn content through the government, and we will. I guess not me. Are you in? You're in John Ossoff's district.
Yep.
You're in his area of the state, I believe.
Yes, I am. I had to vote for him.
I mean,
how could I not? Look at those.
Have you seen him?
Yeah.
Have you seen him?
Have you seen him in person? Damn.
I have not seen him in person.
Oh well, he is such a daddy. It's so weird, to say, but he's a young dad. So normally in terminology, right? LGBT terminology. You would say daddy is usually an older, wealthier man, right? Who takes care of usually a younger, less fortunate, gay. But
people have started
case,
calling me that, and it's extremely uncomfortable reminder of the fact that I'm leaving twinkhood.
Well, now I would say that in his case, right? So he is not a daddy because in his case, he would be considered what is called a zaddy, which is a young, attractive, wealthy daddy. So that's what he would be for me anyway. He would be a zaddy versus a daddy.
All I know is we support people who wanted the sequel trilogy to be the Thrawn trilogy.
Exactly.
In elected office. More politicians come out with your Star Wars opinions, right. And if they're good,
we'll
will vote for you. I'm a single issue voter, and the single issue is whether or not you
like Star Wars.
Have the correct Star Wars opinions.
Exactly.
Not even if you like Star Wars, because I happen to know some politicians who I won't name because this is not a political podcast have posted about it before, and I'm like,
you're like, why?
Get your hands off my
franchise.
Get your hands off my franchise. This is not for you.
Well, speaking of franchises, I'm thinking with these new slew of Star Wars shows, we should start with the first of the Star Wars shows to kind of talk about. We won't go too heavily into detail this episode. I think we'll start probably next one. Mm-hmm. But I think we should talk about The Mandalorian a little bit. Just a quick little blip about it before we talk about it next time.
Right. And the so we're looking at starting next episode. We're going to be our sort of main TV segment is going to be looking at the Mandalorian. Partly because we started recording this and airing this when no shows were on.
Right.
So we had to start by going back. We're having to fill content a little bit in between. We're planning to have guests on. I'm talking to a few people right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're planning to do other stuff that's not just that. But as far as our main focus being TV, we are kind of having to fill this. And, we might as well start with the first live action show, and then we can look at some of the others. I wanted to do the best of all of the Star Wars movies, which originally aired on TV. Ewoks 2, The Battle for Endor. But I guess we have to work up to something of such masterful quality as that.
Yeah, that's a little
to be able to discuss it. there's a lot of cinema going on with that epic grand movie. Gotcha. Ewoks 2, The Battle for Endor. But I have here, and we'll start with you. We started with me last time. We'll start with you.
Okay.
Just to take a broad look at The Mandalorian.
Yes.
And kind of our relationship with it, how we've kind of looked at it over time. I have not one, but two questions here that I'll lob at you to start, Bradley.
Okay.
Is one, what surprised you the most about The Mandalorian when it first premiered? Mm-hmm. And how has it managed to surprise you over the show's, at the time of recording, 2-season run?
Let's see. How did it surprise me? I think when without going into too much detail about the first episode, I think when it first dropped, because was there a trailer for this?
Yes, there were several, but they didn't
show too
talk
much.
a lot about what the plot was,
right?
For good reason,
right? Because they didn't want to spoil anything. I think I had seen the first trailer or something. I'll have to go back and watch the trailer again so I can see what they actually showed us. But I remember being like, "Wow, this looks like a movie, very Game of Thrones-esque." They put in a lot of money in this, and they clearly want this to do well. I don't see how it could fail, honestly. Just from that alone. I mean, I know that's high expectations to have for a TV show, but this was, theoretically the first Star Wars TV show ever. And so
live action.
Live action.
We'll qualify as saying we are aware of droids and Ewoks and the original Clone Wars and all that. He means first live action.
First, you're right. Correction. First live action that actually came to fruition. Because I know that in the past there were things that were planned.
We will do an episode on Star Wars Underworld. I am familiar with that process.
Gotcha.
We will do an episode on Star Wars Underworld and what happened with that.
Yes. Well, I just thought the quality, just from the trailer alone, I was like, damn, this is cinematic quality. It looks so good. And then just I don't even know if it was the grittiness or just it looked very Rogue One-esque. So it looked very dark, very kind of real, less the OG Star Wars, especially with the new Disney ones, they seem on the surface very colorful, usually very, kind of funny at times and stuff. So this seemed this was oh, this is going to be a serious drama TV show. This is going to be serious. So that was just my first impression.
And how did it, so the second question, how did it sort of surprise you over the 2-episode run? Was there anything that kind of choices they made, things they did that you were oh, I wasn't expecting this either in a good way or a bad way?
Well, I think the first season especially leans very heavily on the Western / lone samurai themes.
So I have actually referred to the show in the past in casual conversation as Lone Ranger and Cub, because it draws on the Lone Wolf and Cub movies. It's basically a fusion of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies with the Lone Ranger TV show. And it kind of meshes them together.
Yeah, it's kind of that original, because Star Wars was meant to be anyways, somewhat of a Western anyway. like swashbuckling kind of action movie. And so this literally takes the samurai movies, the old samurai movies, and like the old Western movies, and it's basically Clint Eastwood in, space, which is very interesting, that they do that. And I thought I would hate this, like on the surface, because I don't like Westerns. I don't like old, Asian samurai movies. Like that's not my cup of tea. But the motifs that it draws from those, and then just the things that it picks and chooses from those different films and TV shows and stuff, I think does an excellent job, especially putting it, just kind of dropping it in space, basically.
That screaming you felt in the Force was the sound of 1,000 awful film students from our alma mater crying out in pain when you said you didn't like a movie that was before the 2000s.
Trust me, my history of cinema class, it was a struggle bus to get through.
I can believe it. I can believe it. I took the class at a different campus than you, but I feel like our experiences may have been similar. Although I really liked most of the films we watched.
Oh, see, we had to watch like Citizen Kane and then like The Shining. So
I liked Citizen Kane. That is a good movie, actually.
That movie is like watching a book. Like watching a book come to life.
It's a good movie.
So boring.
It's technically one of the best movies just on a technical level ever made. And it's got so many good parallels to the Star Wars prequels. Like Charles Foster Kane and Anakin Skywalker. I have read think pieces on Charles Foster Kane and Anakin Skywalker and how their journeys mirror each other from people who spend way too much time watching movies and thinking about them. And I say this as somebody who has a podcast where he watches too much TV and talks about it.
What did you think of it when you first saw the trailer?
So when I first saw the trailer, I was like, I'm going to enjoy this. That was my first thought. I went, this is more Star Wars. I thought I was a little disappointed in how gritty it was when I first watched the trailer.
Oh, really? You thought it was going to be bad because it's gritty?
Not bad. I thought it was going to be something that I didn't like because I was never really a fan of the old Bounty Hunter books. I was never a fan of Karen Travis's Republic Commando series and sort of the Mandalorians, and then the stuff she did with Boba Fett later on and all that followed. I was never really into that kind of seedy underbelly of the galaxy kind of bounty hunter thing. Mm-hmm. So I watched it. I was like, it is the bit where they close the door on the Quarren in the trailer. And it closes the door and it cuts to black and there's kind of a chopping noise. And the implication, I believe it's the implication in the show as well, is that it chops him in half. And I went, But the fun thing about my actual experience with watching the premiere of the show, at the time, Disney Plus had dropped. But what I was doing at the time was I didn't actually watch it when it premiered. I was doing a thing where from the moment Disney Plus came out to The Rise of Skywalker, I was trying to watch every single piece of Star Wars, mainline Star Wars content possible. And I had to skip some stuff. I had to skip Freemaker Adventures, which is technically canon-ish, canon adjacent. I had to skip that. But I watched the prequels, so Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, all of the Clone Wars in order, Revenge of the Sith, Rebels, the original trilogy. Then I watched The Mandalorian. So it was about episode 3 or 4 of The Mandalorian that I actually was able to start watching it because I didn't want to jump around. I wanted to watch it in order. I had the big twist at the end of episode 1 spoiled for me a few days after. I brought it on myself.
Yeah, well, if you watched it late,
in order. But what surprised me about the first season was how much I ended up enjoying after consuming all of this Star Wars content that was not about that, how much I enjoyed the Bounty Hunter stuff.
Oh, I see.
And the stuff with the Bounty Hunters Guild, the stuff that I originally looked at and said, I'm not really into this in the trailer, framed through having the important plot element of Baby Yoda in the mix almost kind of made me enjoy that stuff a bit more because it threw a wrench into it. It threw a challenge into it that I wasn't expecting.
Well, when you say Baby Yoda, I have no idea what you're talking about because as we go through the episodes of The Mandalorian, I'm going to try to reference only what we see as we go and nothing else but what we see as we go by the episodes.
Ah, yes.
Basically, no spoilers. You know, I have no idea what happens in the show as we're going to start going over these episodes. So I've never seen season 2, wink, wink. I've never seen all of season 1, wink, wink. So
good luck avoiding the fact that Baby Yoda is a character that exists in the show at this point. I have no qualms about casually mentioning that existed. I won't say too much. To the second question that I had kind of posed, which was what surprised you overall.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting, and we will talk about this in depth in season 2. I will go into all of my reasons for feeling this way. I hated basically every creative choice made in season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Ooh,
that did not surprise me because I knew most of them were coming because I followed the leaks in the rumor mill. I knew everything was happening. What surprised me was that despite hating every single creative choice basically made in the second season of The Mandalorian, I love the second season of The Mandalorian so much. It's
funny you say that because I tell my roommates this all the time because we watch TV shows together all the time, and we're currently going back and we're watching Teen Wolf as one of our like go back ones.
Good show that I watched for the plot.
No, but
that had a plot to it. I think.
Well,
I don't really remember what the plot was.
You can't really tell because it's mostly shirtless dudes getting naked.
I remember every instance of the shirtless dudes, but I couldn't tell you for the life of me what the plot of that show was.
But what I'm getting at is, we were watching we just finished the 3rd season of the show, and my roommate hated it because
it has 3 seasons.
Well, it has 7 or 6, I think, actually. So we just finished the 3rd season. But what I tried to tell him was that a lot of the times in TV is that the 3rd season is what you would call the experimental season of the show, because you've already established your audience by the 2nd season. You've pretty much gotten the major arc of the 1st season done with, right? And the 3rd season's kind of the show writer or the showrunner's kind of time to kind of experiment. It's kind of why people hated the 3rd season of Lost.
I remember, here's the thing with Lost, because the final episode aired when I was in my freshman year of college. And I watched it with, and I am going to date myself here, or not date myself. I am going to out an uncomfortable part of my journey as a gay man, but I watched it with my college girlfriend, which I had. I know you're shocked.
Well, the whole point of naming this podcast as Gold Squadron Gays is the fact that it's a play on the phrase Gold Star Gay, which means you've never had sex with a woman.
Without going into detail, I am still a Gold Star Gay.
Okay, fine. Then we're good. We're safe.
Why do you think what do you think was one of the contributing factors to us breaking up? Is that I had zero interest in her whatsoever.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But to be fair, as much as you know about Star Wars, I don't think she had a lot of interest in you. So
that is true. Let's be real here. It's interesting you bring up kind of TV and how different seasons evolve, and there's a way you can usually track them. Because the other thing that really surprised me about The Mandalorian, and particularly season 2, I had in my head after season 1, I went, okay, I can see how they're setting the show up. The show is going to be, he's going to be traveling the galaxy, doing this plot thing, following the plot coupon, and then it's going to end a certain way.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to be the emotional series finale is this event, I'm being really vague
Yeah,
because I want
please
to
be
talk
very
about it
vague,
when
yeah.
we're talking about the episode. But this certain event is going to happen. The Mandalorian is going to make a certain character choice, and that's going to be the end of the show.
Right.
That was the end of the second season.
Exactly. That was
They
exactly
did
what I thought.
all
yeah.
of the stuff that I went, yeah, this is going to be kind of be the show from here
Right.
on out. They did all of that stuff in the second season, and I went, okay, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited for the third season because, like
What's
I
going to
said,
happen?
we have no idea because, like I said, usually the third season is the experimental season, right? You can kind of do whatever you want and without losing too much of your audience because the show is established and you've probably already signed on to do a fourth season. And so the studios
Usually they do 3 and 4 at the same time. They'll renew it for 3 and 4 at the same time.
Which is usually why you can kind of fuck around with the third season because without going too crazy, they can be mad at you and be like, "Why did you do that?" But it's whatever because
also,
you can fix
your
it in the
audience
fourth
is
season.
invested,
Right? So you can fix it in the fourth season. It's not a big deal.
I frequently reference How to Get Away with Murder because I consider How to Get Away with Murder probably the best serialized network television show of the last decade.
Okay.
But I bring it up a lot because it has great examples of sort of how the first 3 seasons of a TV show generally works. So the first season, you have the characters and the plot that are developed simultaneously by the writers. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, they don't really think, they have kind of a broad arc of what they want the show to be, but they don't really think beyond the first season in terms of specifics.
Right.
So they're developed in tandem. The characters are defined a lot of times by their role in the show.
Mm-hmm.
By the second season, you often have what I call the second season boom, where you now have established characters, but you don't necessarily know what the plot of your show is going to be. So you have to build the plot of the second season. So you have these characters already established. And you can kind of build the second season off what would be interesting to put the established characters through rather than developing the plot and the characters simultaneously. That usually is why the second season of a show tends to be the best one.
Right.
Except in certain cases.
Well,
it tends to be the best one because they haven't gotten deep into the mythos yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also, the characters drive the plot rather than the plot and the characters being developed at the same time. Then you usually get into the third season. That'll kick off like the rest of the show.
Well, I was going to say, so with Mando, the mythos is already established in season 1. We don't need to know, we don't need to know what the Empire is. We don't need to know any of that stuff, which is why I find the show so fascinating because all you have to do, theoretically, is have watched the first 3 Star Wars movies. I mean,
watch a Star Wars movie.
Really? Yeah. Honestly, you could watch A New Hope and that's it. You don't even have to watch the other 2 because you could just assume that by the end of A New Hope, the Empire is dead or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of leave it vague, right? But you can just pretend that them blowing up the Death Star is just the end of the Empire. And then now you can watch Mando and you can be like, oh, the Empire's over and this is how they deal with it.
Because they thought Star Wars was going to bomb to the point where Lucas just fucked off to Hawaii to work on Indiana Jones. I think it was Indiana Jones he fucked off to work on.
You mean Harrison Ford?
No, I mean George Lucas. Like they were developing Indiana Jones at the time.
Oh, I thought you meant I thought you said Luke, not Lucas. That's why
Lucas.
I was like.
I mean, Luke also fucked off to an island when he thought he'd fucked something up.
Right.
But Lucas, they thought Star Wars was going to bomb so hard, and he was so burnt out, and he was just like, "I'm done with this." He didn't attend the premiere. Mm-hmm. He just left, and he went to Hawaii and was working on Indiana Jones. And that's why they left Vader surviving in there as kind of like a vague sequel hook, but it's fine if you didn't get another movie. And he was gone for 2 weeks with no communication with anyone. He had no idea it blew up over the 2 weeks he was gone. And he came back and he was like the biggest thing.
The biggest thing ever.
But you're right. And they set up even, internally they set up the mythology of the Bounty Hunters Guild and all of that
Right.
relatively early in the first season, and then it doesn't have a lot of impact
No.
on the full season. So it's interesting that they don't have to set up their internal mythology.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost a shortcut in filmmaking, right? Like if the movie established the world, right? So we don't ever have to think, oh, I know what a Quarren is. I know what, the bounty hunters are. Like we just know what they are already because they're established. We know that that's a profession in the Star Wars world, and some people have that job. Or actually, rather, most people have that job because as we see from Star Wars, there's literally only 3 jobs in all of Star Wars. You're either a farmer, a robot, or a bounty hunter for the most part, or you work for the Empire. You basically work for the government. So that's pretty much it.
You're either a soldier, a bounty hunter, a smuggler, or a force user, or a pilot.
So to wrap things up, I thought it would be really fun if we read a few reviews of the Mandalorian TV show, but only the bad ones, because obviously everybody's going to say good ones, right?
Oh,
okay.
I like this idea. This is a surprise to me, by the way. He did not tell me about this in our pre-show meeting. I am delighted right now. Let's do it. This is going to be like those bad reviews of Empire Strikes Back I read to write my joke review.
Right. So I'm going to read a couple of user reviews. These are on IMDb. So I'm sure there's reviews other places, but I just chose.
I hate that website.
I just chose this one because it was easy, because you have the ability to rate out of 10 stars, right? So most of the reviews on this website are 10 stars. Most people love Mandalorian. But here's some of the people who thought, you know what? This is only a 1-star show. So the very first one is titled, "This insults my intelligence!" Exclamation point.
Yeah, welcome to Star Wars.
It said, "Very disappointing, very bad script. This was made for children, I hope."
Again, welcome to Star Wars.
I was like, wait, what?
A children's franchise about magic space wizards.
Right. I was like, okay. Now this one, this review, I was like, are you okay? This person said, "Am I watching the same show? Question mark. How is this universally praised? It's like a bad sci-fi show had a kid with a generic Disney Channel show." What? And then they go on. I can't
possibly say welcome to Star Wars enough.
Wait. Not even that. Wait, this is where they keep going. They go, "I came expecting something akin to Battlestar or Firefly, but got something I have trouble finding a comparison to. Every single episode ends the same." So stupid. Like, what?
Yeah, they all end.
Well, I don't think this person understands like what a serial like that Star Wars was based off of, like Flash Gordon, It's Mando does a pretty good job of doing that, like kind of, it's a not monster of the week type of episode, but the first season for sure is definitely like small little stories, samurai stories. Like he goes to the village and he does this, and then he leaves, and then it's a totally different story. Right. It's the Western format
style that you mentioned earlier, where playing off that Clint Eastwood, which is I don't know if this person recognizes that or has seen movies before, but he shows up at a place and does a thing and helps the people, and then he leaves. That is how these Western movies, the various Clint Eastwood movies, this is how they work. This is how the Kurosawa movies work. And particularly early on in the second season, that's some of the best episodes, where he shows up at a place and they have a problem and he fixes the problem and then he moves on. That's how this works.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I think people just don't understand what the show is trying to do if they do give it a bad review like that, because I think if you're looking at it in the context of this needs to be just like Grey's Anatomy, like it's not going to be anything like that. Like, I don't know what they're trying to compare it to. So anyway, those are just some bad reviews I thought would be funny. Do you have anything else? Because we are approaching the 1 hour mark already, and that means
we do have a tendency to do that. Yes.
Yeah, we kind of ramble.
Next episode, we are going to start our rewatch of The Mandalorian. We're going to start with that one. We're going to look at some of the other. We're going to go back then and look at some of the other shows over time when we have time to fill. But waiting for, fingers crossed, Bad Batch in the spring, which I want to look forward to watching at the same time I'm playing Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, my most hyped game ever. But we're going to start Mandalorian. I think we're doing 2 episodes per podcast episode. Is it 1 or 2?
We'll have to see how long we go with one and see if okay, we couldn't talk about it very long, but if we ended up doing another hour-long discussion on episode 1, then I think, we'll just have to see. I think, but so right now this is technically episode 0 of the Mandalorian season 1. So this is just us generally talking about Mando. And then next week we'll talk about,
we'll jump into
episode 1 at least.
We'll start with episode 1 then. So that's what we can expect next week. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I really had nothing else. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up while we were on air?
No, that's all for now.
We're just going to be winging the ending, I guess, until we can come up with something, because it is Gold Squadron. Winging the ending.
Winging the ending? Oh, God. Okay. Well, at least you didn't say May the Force be with you.
I will. Watch me.